Put your hands together, boy, now. Shake it, but don't break it, brother.
My name is Boy Lad. I come from the Ho-Chunk Zuni Nation. I was born here in Zuni Pueblo and raised in Wisconsin by my grandparents in the old ways of the Ho-Chunk people. I started dance back in 1952, May of 1952, and my grandparents, as humble as they were, because I come from a world that is very traditional, and we didn't have very much. I lived in a wigwam. We didn't have a house, a dirt floor, the usual story you hear a lot of the elders, but I was raised that way. And following Herushka, my people come from a warrior society. We still have our war bundles, our medicine bundles. We still take scalps. We still have honorings in that sense. And so I was raised as a warrior, listening to my uncles, my grandfather speak in the lodge. And listening to them, I began to gain a better understanding of, I guess you could say, my purpose in life. I won my first competition in 1958. Later on, I became a Red Feather, adopted into the Red Feather Society, and I find it one of the highest honors of all. And being able, and that was not necessarily for myself as it was for my clan, my religion, my way of life, and following Herushka, that's part of what we do as Powwow people. In part, there's a certain choreography in dance, but for a lot of the old timers, I like to enjoy the music. I walk out onto the arena and you don't know what drum group is going to hit you, and they say a name and right away you focus on what style, what kind of endings, because each tribe has a different ending, a different tempo, a different set. So it's kind of a challenge for a lot of us as so-called professional dancers that you listen to the music and the challenge become a part of that. And so you'll say, well, the tempo, the beat, the downbeats, what you're going to follow. But again, you follow the essence of smoothness, balance, footwork, body movement, head movement. I oftentimes say that 40% of dance is the regalia. The other 60% is your dancing ability. I like to say we do everything in series of 4s and 5s. Because one, it's just common sense. When you see a person dancing out there, not all judges are going to be able to see it. So you balance anything to the left 4 times, you balance it to the right. The same thing forward. We never had backward steps until the 1970s. And that became a part of this balance that we look and dance. So each particular style has its own origin, its own parameter, each style that we try to follow. A warrior knows a real warrior when they talk. You can see how they conduct themselves and how the story is told, and they can almost tell exactly when they took coup on the enemy, touched the enemy. We say coup could be interpreted 2 different ways, one to take in their human life or to touch the enemy. So a lot of the traditional dancers, they carry these coup sticks and they tell their story. Traditional dance, you tell a story when you dance through body movements, through the regalia, through the colors, everything that they have. And again, each tribe has its own uniqueness, its own way, whether you come from Canada, United States, Northern Plains, Southern Plains. The ladies' jingle originated back in the early 1800s, and it's the oldest of all the ladies' styles of dance. It became a big part of powwow and gained acceptance in the late 1970s, early 80s. Now it's become perhaps one of the more popular styles, just like grass dance, the same thing, though it was perhaps one of the oldest, Fancy dance originated back in the late 1800s among what they call the Buffalo Bill Wild West shows. And I kind of laugh, people chuckle, and a lot of Oklahoma people, they agree with me, they have that understanding, the old timers. But fancy dance, when a lot of these Wild West shows went overseas, Back then in the 1800s, they just had the basic bell around their thing, or noisemakers, so to speak, an apron. They didn't even have bustles, and sometimes they might have a roach, but that was it. And they circled the wagons. You heard the old stereotype Buffalo Bill Wild West show. Well, there was celebration, victory, and Buffalo Bill, when he saw these dances, back then they only had the basic 1-2 step, 1, 2, 1, kind of, you hear some of that beat, kind of chuckle, but that's all they had back in the 1800s. And so Buffalo Bill asked the dancers to pick up the drums, to pick up the speed, asked the dancers to put more feathers on and put more noisemakers, more bells on. And then you look at the different styles. Grass dance has always been there. You look at the grass dance, the fringe, going back to, again, the Omaha people, reflection of the scalps that were taken in battle. And they would hang them on their regalia. And again, the more they had, the more cool, the more proud they served as warriors. And of course, naturally, the stench, later on, the smell of the decay of the scalps and everything, they replaced it with grass. That's calling the grass dance. And later on, the ribbon, the ribbon became a big part of it back in the 1940s, 1950s. Now today, yarn has kind of taken it. Depends on time, region, and area. Fancy, there's more speed, but you still had to maintain that element of smoothness. So you hit every drum beat, every step. You look at the women's styles of dance. Ladies traditional came around in the 1940s, 1950s, and they danced on the outer part of the circle, what we say in support of the men. It was honor them when they dance, and support, we say. There's a spirit. And the spirit of that, the spirit of giving, which is the essence of both worlds. As warriors, we always must give to the people, to the young, to the women. We always give. Today, my message to a lot of these champions is to be very careful. Because that powwow spirit, you win and win and win, but you don't give nothing back. You should always give to the people, to that arena, to that powwow circle. If you don't give to it, I'm sorry to say, something can be taken away from you. You can lose your sons, you can lose your family, and you can lose yourself. What we say, you give in one way, you'll receive back tenfold, blessings tenfold. So we always try to recognize that in a good way. Always give and help one another. That is what powwow, that is what dance is. That spirit. Aho.